everyone, and welcome back for another week of Relevant. I appreciate that you're all taking a couple hours out of your busy schedule, you know, clearing the streets of Night City. I know I had to step away for just a little bit, but MitchMan's here with me to talk all things Valorant. We're going to be catching up on, of course, First Strike news and a lot of the changes coming in. Mitch, did you play some Cyberpunk today, or have you not gotten on the hype train yet?
I actually waited a little bit, and I cracked because I just saw all the tweets about it, all the videos. I watched like a 30-minute intro from a YouTuber, and I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's give it a shot. It's got that kind of Skyrim, Deus Ex Machina crossover vibes. I'm into that.
Yeah. Skyrim's like one of my all-time favorite games, so anything that's like sort of open world, RPG-esque, I'm instantly hooked, and I only got a couple hours in, but I'm already biting to get back. But Valorant's sweet too. I was, of course, testing out some of those Icebox changes today, so let's go ahead and look at the rundown of the show. As always, we're going to be kicking things off with our Newsflash, update you on everything that's happening in the game, move on over to esports, and of course, get your First Strike recap in here. Got our wish list coming up later, and then a super special show match. In the past, we've had completely for fun show matches, but later on tonight, we're actually going to be having some legit qualifier matches for the tournament that Level is running later this weekend. More on that later. But starting off right off the bat, patch notes. We got Icebox and we got Sage changes. Talk to me about that, Mitch.
So the Icebox changes were pretty interesting. There was a real split in the community about whether they liked it or didn't. Basically, they're just taking some of these angles that play out as like massive height advantages and evening them out a little bit, making it easier to kind of approach and attack those bomb sites and not quite have the high ground to fight against if you're the defender as well. I think it evens the playing field. And then Sage, it's really quality of life. Like, the changes are significant in a way in that, like, her wall, for example, won't be destroyed as quickly because the health doesn't decay until a little bit later. Right? Which means that basically if you approach that wall after, 10 seconds after it's being put down, it'll take an extra few bullets to disintegrate. And I think that's pretty important because you look at how quickly Sage walls actually last. They're essentially only used to tell you somebody can enter this side of the map or somebody cannot. They're not actually used to stop pushes because you put it up and it's gone almost immediately. So it's it'll give that a little bit more stability, I suppose, when it's facing off against a full rush. Yeah,
and I also think that maybe this doesn't come into play as much in higher elos, but in lower elos too, right? Like, you had a very clear visual indicator for how long the Sage Wall had been up and how long you have until it sort of deteriorates and collapses on itself. Whereas now it's staying stable all the way up until right before it ends up crumbling. Like, you don't have that information, so maybe it's a little harder to plan around that when you do go for attacks. Of course, the other piece of change to Sage actually was a micro patch halfway through the last patch. There were a lot of bugs with her putting down her wall before the barrier, letting Omen TP into some pretty nasty places. So they just said, no more Omen TPs before the round. So Sage can no longer pre-place her wall, but that already I feel like wasn't necessarily like the go-to strategy in most situations. So I don't think that's going to end up hurting her too bad.
No, I think the only thing I can think of that it is used for is exactly as you said, putting it down so that your Omen can TP and isn't stuck in that animation for the start of the round. He can immediately take those fights from height. And the other side of that as well that I just think of now is that when you put the Sage Wall down, you get an audio cue. You put it down before the round, they don't get that audio cue. And if it's in the right angle where they can't see it, they'll peek out, bang, guys shooting you from up top of Tube, for example, over an Icebox. Whereas now you're in this position where you'll hear it go, it's over there. He might peek up on top, a little bit of time to react, and then... So, again, very good change. It's not game-breaking. It's not going to make Sage unpicked or picked more. It's just, it's a good thing to have in there.
Yeah, and I do feel like we're sort of entering a place now where game's been out for 6 months, roughly. I'm trying to do the mental math in my head. It's crazy that it's only been out for like 6 months. But we're reaching a point where it feels like Riot is really slowing down on balance changes. And when there are balance changes to characters specifically, it's going to be like very like minor things like this Sage. There's been talk about like a Brimstone buff, Viper buff a little while ago. We'll see how that plays out with how she was picked up in First Strike, of course. But to me, it doesn't seem like we're going to see large scale changes done to agents anytime soon. I feel like Riot, especially if they're looking at like like their internal data, win rates and stuff are probably pretty much in line. So it's going to be all good. And that, of course, lets Riot focus on the things that really matter. And that's skins. We've got a big announcement with the night market coming out. This is a system that Riot has already put into League of Legends, pretty much, where every person is going to get a randomized shop with, you know, gun skins that have been around for forever, and with some special discounts. So maybe you get lucky, maybe you don't, who knows.
That's it. Obviously, I've never been massively into that because didn't play League. I suck at it. But when it comes down to this kind of, when you're telling me I'm getting skins cheaper, I'm happy. I'm all in on that. Let's go. I think that at the moment, though, I love the skins in Valorant. I think the price is pretty fair as well. Like, you're paying, what, 12 to 20 euro at most for some really, really skins. I'm excited to see what they come out with in the future, because the current line, it seems to be that every time a skin set comes out, it's better and better, and that makes me scared to buy any of them, because I know next month I'll be like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's just that instant regret when, you know, I think I got like the Singularity Phantom, then the next week, what's it called? The white skins with sort of the blue orb in the middle, whatever those are. They were sweet.
Right.
And I was like, oh, what did I do? It was such a mistake. So, yeah. But then, of course, if you wait more than 2 weeks, they're out of the rotation, and it's random. You have to log in on the right days to get it. So I think Riot has cracked the code in how to maximize their profits off the skin system. I think they're low-key geniuses when it comes to that. But yeah, night market will be cool. Hope you guys get lucky. Next thing was the competitive updates, and this is largely going to be like GFX and you see it on your screen right here. Rank distribution has been updated to make it easier to climb. Riot is usually pretty vague when it comes to how rank ups work, and, you know, how much do wins influence, and, you know, your KDA and this sort of stuff affect it. So they're not going to give it away completely, but I think this largely will mean that if you look at ranked right now, the more games you play, like, the harder it becomes to climb between divisions. So if you lose a lot of games in low elo, it can take a long, long time to sort of drag your way out. So to me, I would assume that they make that penalty a little bit more forgiving.
Yeah, I would hope so. I've been stuck down in the plat regions for so long. Managed to get into diamond. Thank God. Thank God. We're out of there. We're out of elo hell. But no, I think that's one of the things, right? One of my friends had a couple of really unlucky ranking games, and he's global elite in CS. You know, he's a solid player. He's just been stuck in gold because we can't queue with him, right? We can't play with him because he's too far down. So he's solo queuing, and it's funny, man. You see 25 to 30 kills on all of his games, and they're all losses. It's fantastic.
Just play better, you know? Play better and you'll climb. Oh, wait, but I got 40 kills. How is this possible? Yeah, it's a little bit unfair. It's a little bit unfair for sure. But, you know, if competitive isn't your thing, you know what might be? Snowball mode. We've been waiting for some new modes to be tossed in, and this isn't your high-stakes competitive mode that everyone was maybe hoping for, but hey, for the holidays, I think this will be a lot of fun, and if you want to play with your friends in not an area where they're going to tank your elo, Snowball Fight is the way to go. It's a 5v5 team deathmatch.
You know, this is the thing. Maybe Snowball Fight is going to be the next big competitive mode. It might challenge the current game mode. I don't think so. But it will be a little bit of fun to go along with it. You know, you're all walking around with those brimstone Molotov launchers, but instead of heat, you're firing out some cold, well, not steel, cold water, I guess. It'll be a little bit of fun for the
really cold water. Yeah, really cold water to make sure, you know, it ices up. This is the sweet video we got with it. Of course, for the first week, it's going to be Icebox only, and then after that week, it will open up to other maps. You can see there's a sweet new map skin on all the boxes are now Christmas presents. And honestly, if I walked downstairs on Christmas morning and I saw a present that big, I would lose my mind. But it would probably be empty because I don't know what would you put in that?
Well, look, I mean, this time of year, those are freight containers, right? So maybe they're just freight containers full of children's Christmas presents. Hopefully, they'll disappear right before Christmas, so the presents can make it to the kids and not be stuck on Icebox. I mean, that would
wait a second. Do you think Icebox is where Santa lives?
That might be it. Up the top, you ever see, like, right above on the mountain, there's this little facility with a helicopter? That's modern day Santa. He doesn't use a sleigh anymore. He has to go for the helicopter for that extra speed.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. You know, maybe a little spoiler, but later on I'm going to be talking about Valorant lore. So maybe the lore is Santa lives in Icebox. That's not what I hope for at all. What I think a lot of people were hoping for, though, was Icebox and seeing some changes potentially done over there. You alluded to it a bit earlier, but they reduced a lot of the verticality and some of the tougher positions on the map. And in general, I think just cleaned up A site and made it much more like fluid to play, much more what's the right wording for it? It just feels more comfortable when you play A. There's not quite as many angles you have to worry about. They chucked up a gate so that you can't walk through it and, you know, attack from multiple different sides. So overall, I think that this was a very healthy change for the game.
Yeah, I think that gate as well, it's going to help a lot in terms of maintaining map control as an attacker. You don't have as many little nooks and crannies that the defenders can hide behind if they do get aggressive, and there's a very predictable route or pathing for them as they come forward. If the gate stays in the long term, I would be interested to see. I think it could cause some problems with making it too difficult to push the A site, but we'll see how that goes over time. I think especially because we have agents like your Jet, your Raze, your Omen who can manipulate that height, and the fact that they'll, for example, if you want to get onto ultimate height, as we would call it, there's a ramp now. So you don't actually need to use 2 updrafts or 2 shadow steps. You can just use 1 and then walk up from there. So it's definitely going to open up a lot of interesting engagements that we haven't seen before.
Definitely, and I think if you look at that area of the map, like, yes, it makes it harder to attack from the right side on the ground, but actually by reducing the verticality, it actually made the ramp shorter, so you can get up there a little bit quicker on attack. There's also now that extra ramp coming down. You can see it right there in the back, of course, instead of dropping down. So previously, if you wanted to get off that super high spot, you'd have to make noise and fall down. Now you could just, you know, slowly walk on through that if no one's really holding that angle too aggressively. The wall on the defense side also got slanted, so it's a little bit easier to attack. You don't have to clear both sides as obviously moving in, and that box you could sort of get a cheeky off angle on has been minimized just a bit too.
Yeah, I really like that change. It's very similar to what we saw on B Heaven on Split, where they took out the 50-50 angle that you have to clear pushing through. It just means in the attacking side, you reduce one of the problems. The main problem that you'll hear if you ask pro teams and pro players, hey, what do you think of Icebox? Too many angles. First thing I've heard from every single pro player I've asked. And so now that they've removed that, it will make the A site easier to push. And that's where the majority of those problems have been, because it wasn't just angles, like that angle in particular. It was the fact that when you go into A, they can be left or right, up or down. So there's 4 angles you've got to clear plus in front of you. It was just way too much. So a really healthy change. And speaking of cover being removed, that one there right in the middle of the site, that's going to actually help out post plants a lot to defend that, because now you've got that extra little space to plant behind and no cover for them as they push out to clear the tighter angles.
Exactly. Now, Mitch, I've been trying to work through this change in my head. Obviously, like, it does open up the site, but is there a purpose to the tiny box there? Like, what can you actually do with that, if anything?
With the small little, like,
yeah, because I was trying, it's like you can't boost into, you can't like jump up into heaven. Like I've just been trying to, because usually like map designers do every small change with intent. So I'm just curious why they left something there instead of just leaving it completely empty. I was wondering if anyone had cracked the case yet, but maybe if you guys have some ideas, you can drop it in chat.
I mean, I would have suggested, like, okay, the reason for leaving something there, you don't want it to be just a completely open space, but it doesn't provide you cover to plant behind. Maybe it's so that you can head peek into heaven a little bit easier out into the spawn. At the same time, you're going to be wide open for the push through from mid, and you're going to be on a very predictable angle. Like, if it was a long ledge, sure, I'll give you that excuse, but for a little truck, I don't know. I guess this is the kind of situation where I can't see the benefit. You can't, but maybe give it a couple weeks with pro teams, and I'm sure there'll be some, well, hopefully there'll be some interesting use of it, or it's just going to disappear.
No, I actually think you might be onto something, because I assume if you jump up on that, you can full clear the upper tube area, maybe back of heaven too. So that checks out in my head. Maybe if we get an Icebox match later, we'll be able to confirm that potentially. But there was one more change on Icebox. It was over on the B site. That super gigantic boost on yellow is now just one giant box just the one yellow box. It's up on stilts or something like that. This, of course, is really only going to affect Omen and Jet were the two agents that could reliably get up here. I guess Reyes technically could when she's on attack, but very rarely would you see her boost on up there. Overall, again, just reducing the verticality, but this one I feel like doesn't actually like fundamentally change the map too much, other than that one like super aggressive angle you could hold from way up high when you're trying to defend that side.
Yeah, essentially it just comes back to too many angles. It reduces one that you have to clear, because as the attackers, when you push up, you already have to worry about everything on the floor, first of all, but then the container that's being hoisted by a crane, they can be up there, they can be more aggressively over towards the first container as you push through, they could be behind that, and then on top of that, double boost as well. So I think, again, it's just a little bit too much to deal with. Now you're in a position where it's going to be much more predictable. Removing one angle actually does make a massive amount of difference, because it reduces the amount of time that you need to pay attention to a certain angle. Now all of a sudden you can clear it 0.2, 0.3 seconds faster, which could be the difference between getting the first shot off and dying.
Definitely could. That conversation's always, it's invigorating. It's for the intellectuals out there, but for the kids out there, Playzilla, new skins. Now, Playzilla was sort of they teased a little bit. It was one of the advertisers for, or the sponsors rather, for First Strike. But this is a new skin line. It would appear with some toy guns just in time for Christmas. This is a lot of fun, because I remember these floating around quite a long time ago. But yeah, did you ever play with guns like this as a kid?
Oh, absolutely. Many different brands of guns that are similar to this one. Fire the little foam things. I actually had one that you pumped up, and the harder you pumped it, the harder the bullet came out, right? I broke a glass table with it. Apparently, if you pumped it enough, you got some serious force behind it. Toys aren't the same
that doesn't
anymore.
Seem safe for kids to use.
No, you weren't supposed to pump it that many times. But I don't remember playing with it after it shattered the glass table. I think that was the last time I got to pump it all the way.
Mitch, pumping it too much. You hate to see it. I actually just realized that when you pull the weapon out, it's wrapped up, gift wrapped. It's on the finisher as well, but right when he was pulling it out, that was kind of cool too. So, if you want to leave some bullets in the walls, this is the first skin that does that. I think all other skins just have the same wall-like pen effect, but there you go.
What I like about this as well?
Wait, that wall is pennable over there.
Or is that just? It could be because of the skin.
No, it's purple. It's actually because of the skin. It's pay to lose.
Pay to lose. Yeah, you think it's wall bangable? Nope, just your skin fooling you.
That's
the thing I'll say about this. You see the wrapping when they take it out. As far as I know, the more kills you get with it, the wrapping changes over time, and then you get a random finisher each time as well. So that's pretty cool. The kind of levolution to it.
Interesting. Yeah, because, it looked like there was a finisher for every kill he got, but I guess that's just because there's one player on the other side. We'll see when it comes out what it ends up looking like. I'm not a fan of the knife. It looks like one of those foam knives you would use, same sort of deal. Not my cup of tea,
I get you, yeah. I've got the gold axe, though, Ender, and I'll be honest, I would literally take any other knife in the game except for the gold axe. I bought it on day one, and like I said, you only live to regret it. Straight afterwards, you're looking at dragon skins come out. I was like, come on, guys. I'm here with an axe. I look like an idiot.
You bought the Prime collection, like, wow, what a deal! I get this free knife, and then you're like, wait a second, that was a lot of money. I can't do this on every single collection. Yeah, but Glitch Pop is where it's at for the knife. That one's sweet. Speaking of sweet new things, there's a rumor floating around about a new agent. Now, a lot of this got kickstarted with a clip that is floating around, where you can see some footsteps going down. So if you're trying to read into it, does it mean invisibility? What does it mean? It could be anything. But Riot, they again do this in League all the time, where like the patch or two before a new character comes out, they will hide these little Easter eggs in for a couple people to find.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one to me, because like the ideas that I have immediately go against competitive integrity in a way. Like, okay, he's invisible and you can see his footsteps. Great. Let's think about it on the defensive side. What if he just stands still and goes invisible as you're about to push? You walk past him, he just shoots you. Like, there's a
Sounds
lot
like
of weird
good
things.
ability.
It would be a pretty good ability. He'll be 100% pick rate. But what I'll say about Riot is, like, I'm in this very weird position where I trust them almost entirely. So I already think this agent is going to be balanced. So I'm more curious to find out how it's going to be balanced. Because even when it comes to, like, Sky, for example, flashes are insane. You get blinded by those things, oh man, you're blind all day. But you can shoot them, and that's the thing. It introduces a level of skill where you have to react. You can't just approach it like CS and go, I'll just turn from the flash, because nah, mate, you're still blind for 5 seconds. So I like what they're doing. There's always counterplay available, and I guess that comes from being a League of Legends developer, as we were discussing before. There's so many data points to consider, how this interacts with that. A tiny change can break the game. And so in Valorant, I trust them with this agent. But invisibility, if that's what it is, oh, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I don't think it's a weird opinion at all, because I also, like, completely trust the designers to put out some pretty sweet products. This is also sort of hinting at what the silhouette of this guy could end up being like. And I believe there was a Reddit post too that was trying to connect the dots here and say, like, could this agent actually come from Japan? Mainly dealing with Riot a week or two ago put out that they're going to be doing a music festival on January 16th, and they announced 6 regions that were going to be involved. 5 of these regions have agents, and I believe another part of it was there were going to be live performances or some sort of, like, VR. The agents are going to be showing up. So if you have 5 agents, a Brim, a Phoenix, Killjoy, Raze, Jet, those all very popular agents, they could be showing up here. Could this new guy also show up? And could we maybe, and this is another piece I was connecting, the night market, if you look at the post, like, the whole thematic for that is, it's like Japanese, right? So could, in theory, be hinting at where this agent does come from, which would be very cool.
Is that then going to be something to do with his abilities, getting weapons cheaper or something? You know, if the night market is kind of coming out around the same time, is that going to be, is like abilities, he gets a weapon for free, that's his ult. Or steals a weapon. Hear me out. Oh, okay.
You can buy weapons mid-round. You get a couple of kills with your pistol. Whoa. You upgrade it. You sell your pistol. You know, you get half the money back. You upgrade it to a stinger. That sounds miserable. Like, if you thought Reyna on pistols was a pain to deal with, imagine this guy doesn't buy anything. You know, sits on 800 credits, gets 1 kill, and is like, "Now I've got a stinger. What you gonna do about it?"
Yeah, what I think as well, looking at the. Yeah, with the stick, he buys an Odin mid-round, goes invisible. You're like, what's going on? What I think is quite interesting as well is on that silhouette, I'm getting real, like, dark elf vibes. I don't know. I don't even know what game I'm delving into there, but it just has that kind of mystical, this stance and everything. I'm feeling like some sort of magic or maybe like market manipulation where he's able to do something with the economy. I don't know. It's really interesting. There's so many possibilities out there. I'm just waiting for, like, a Silas. It's his name, right? The guy with the chains, steals people's ultimate. Yeah, I'm waiting for something like that to come out.
I love it. Yeah, the ability steal. Yeah, because that's the thing is, I feel like Riot has been relatively tame with a lot of their character releases so far. Like, Reyna has the hint of, like, invisibility, right? You know, untargetability with her E. But we haven't seen any of those, like, game-breaking mechanics in some of, like, the newer agents, I don't feel like. You know, Killjoy feels very similar to Cypher, these types of things. So the next few agents that come out, I feel like, similar to how Riot is pushing, you know, very different styles of maps, maybe we see some pretty crazy abilities. And there's a lot of different areas that can play in that, like, other, you know, tactical shooters just limited by, because they have to be realistic, you know, and you can only have so many different types of grenades. But Riot definitely has a lot more freedom that's going to be really cool to get into. Is there any type of ability that you've thought would be kind of sick in the game? Because, like, to me, one of the abilities, like, I thought about, because I like to, like, design, you know, agents in my head and stuff like this, was like, what about some sort of, like, sound manipulation, right? You know, like, either you can, like place down sensors, hear footsteps from further away, dampen your own footsteps so you could be sprinting but not making sound. Like, those sorts of things always sounded cool to me. But have you had any thoughts like that?
One thing I had, and I think it would be incredibly overpowered, so maybe it would have to be like an ultimate, would be the like a curse. Let's go with. I had a technology thing, but Cypher's in the game, so like a curse that stops an agent from being able to use their abilities and their ultimate for a whole round. So like a Cypher trap or something like that you put down. If you manage to, I don't know how the mechanic would work, but if you manage to inflict this on another agent, they can't use their abilities for the rest of the round. It'd be really good to use on like a breach or someone who has their ultimate, like a raise. If you're going to try to rush a site, get raise cursed and then can't use it. I think that'd be an interesting, if not infuriating, ability.
Yeah. There's a character in Overwatch that I'm pretty sure can do something very similar to that, but I can't remember her name. Sombra? It's Sombra. That's the one. Sombra. I haven't played Overwatch in like 5 years, but I've still got a few. Yeah, because I was thinking like, oh, you could have like sort of like utility shields maybe too that you could give to your teammates, right? So they can't get flashed. Like you can give one teammate your jet the ability to like counter flashes, something like that. There's some cool ideas in there. I can get behind it.
I had one which was basically like not a mechanic, but an engineer who can essentially go and heal your armor. So we've already got agents who heal health, but now you get a guy who can come up and maybe give you fresh armor or come up and like, stitch it back together. Maybe he has to stand physically beside you, or probably easier would be just throw some armor on the ground and you go, oh, cheers, mate. And you've got full armor again. That'd be interesting.
I really wanted to take it to be, this would be terrible, just like a 15-second animation. The man just over there like weaving it back together.
Maybe it's like a skill thing as well. You have to physically like sew it yourself. Like on the screen.
It's like a task in Among Us, you have to connect the wires and everything. That sounds absolutely terrible. This is why we leave the designing to Riot Games and not us. We would just meme it up. You know what, that's a fun way to conclude our newsflash. Wasn't planning on having that conversation, but I like the direction we took. Let's head over into esports updates. And we have been telling you guys for weeks now, as soon as First Strike ends, even before it, we're going to start seeing roster changes, and we've had some huge ones. Now, I'm going to start us off with the Purple Cobras. This is one of the 8 teams that qualified for First Strike. They unfortunately were not able to go very far in the main event, but they are going to be disbanding, citing that some of their players have already received some great offers. So hopefully this is good news for a lot of these players, as maybe they can find more stability with a better contract and potentially build some sweet teams.
Yeah, I mean, Purple Cobras was, and it's a shame that these guys are going as well at this time, because we're just coming into the snowball fight, and we know Purple Cobras is from Dodgeball. They would have been perfect. They would have been the best team in the world at snowball fight, but now they're gone, and unfortunately we'll never know if they can dodge wrenches, balls, or snowballs. But this team, they came in, they were a mix essentially, right? They put some work in, they had Fields come in as their coach, they were definitely starting to do some of the groundwork, but it's always the fear when you're unsigned that organizations are going to come along and just go, hey, do you like money? Do you like contracts? And then all of a sudden you've lost one or two of your players, team falls apart. And I think it's exactly what we've seen happen here. But at the same time, the results in the main event weren't exactly enough to justify them sticking around as a 5-man. So I think roster changes were inevitable. And if you can already get your offer to go to a different team, why not take it?
Yeah. Yeah, and you look at some of the other teams that came in, without an org bag, like Summon FC was was able to make it all the way to finals, which is super impressive. And like my hope for teams like that is I don't want to see them broken apart. Like, yeah, it would be great if a G2 or someone were to offer you a contract, and like absolutely, I think take it if that's the case. But Summon FC, very exciting team. Hope they don't end up splitting apart. But one team that wasn't able to make it as far as they wanted to as well was FPX, and they actually decided Meadow is going to be leaving the team here. And this was one of the most dominant teams in Europe for the majority of the year, right behind G2. You remember all those clashes between the two squads. What's your take on this change?
Hey, listen, I've got so much faith in Doombros and Angel and Jonta that I would naturally, intuitively, I suppose, I would sit there and go, what the hell? Are you crazy? Like, Meta was insane. He's a really good Cypher, really smart and patient player. I hope this guy finds a really good home, first of all. But also, like, my intuition would be that that's a mistake. You're in it for the long run. You're trying to build the team and so on. Thing is, I have a lot of faith in these guys, and I know that they probably have their eye on one or two players or on a change of play style that Meadow maybe can't fit into that easily. I know he's been a hard Sentinel player. Now, there's always so much going on behind the scenes where we don't know why he's done that. Maybe it's because he can only play Sentinels. More likely, it's because it's the role he was put into, and they don't feel that he'll flex as well as some of their other options. It's really hard to make these calls on whether it's a good or bad decision. Ultimately, for me, it's just wait and see who they pick up, and from there we'll be able to really make an informed call on it, I guess.
Yeah, and regardless, I think like everyone expects Meadow to find a very solid team, you know, maybe move into a position where he can take his experience on FPX, bring that into a new team, sort of brings some leadership there too. That is obviously going to be a potential option for him, and I think any players that got the chance to play with Meadow would consider themselves very lucky. Now, one team that is maybe less well known is, and I always butcher the name on this, HS Deer, I believe, and JD is going to be departing from that team. So again, take on this, Mitch.
I think at this point, and it goes for all the roster changes, if there's something that hasn't been clicking behind the scenes, especially if you have your eye on another player who will maybe fit your future plans a little bit better, now's the time to make changes. And the reality is we don't have big tournaments until February. You're talking about close to 2 months where you've got a break where there's nothing big on the lines. And especially because once we start, you're not going to want to go Challengers, Masters, roster change. You want to have your team from the start, build up your points, and get your way into the World's Finals. So now it's the right time to make changes. Ultimately, again, it just comes down to who they're replacing them with, because at the moment, the majority of the announcements are, we're letting this player go, we're benching this player, but we haven't actually seen who they have their eye on. We haven't seen who they're picking up instead, which tells me that these teams are still trialing, and that then is a little bit scary if you're like removing a solid player from your lineup to trial someone that maybe doesn't work out. Then what are you going to do? You know, but again, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes until we see
now
it.
Mitch, is this the time, you know, for a lot of teams, this is the time to make changes. Is this the time for the most successful European team in 2020, G2 Esports, to drop 2 of their players? I'm sure everyone that's watching right now knows, but G2 decided to drop David P and Pith here. And this frankly blew my mind. The other day you said, like, you know, there are rumors there might be some big changes coming. I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I wonder what happens to FPX, you know? It's like, no, it's G2 dropping these guys, like, or benching them rather. What's going on?
Yeah. So that report came out from Nell. He then went on to clarify that actually they've decided to keep Pith, which again, got to be a bit scary if you know your name was in that group, right? Like your teammates were planning to kick you out, but they're like, nah, we'll keep him. Who are we going to get instead? That's a little bit spooky, but from what I know, they're going to definitely 100% they're parting ways with David P, the battle sage, the man that is known for bringing that role that I think Lowell has gone on to perfect a little bit more than what we saw David reach. But the thing for me, right, I'll give you a little bit of backstory on myself and David. I hated David in Counter-Strike, not as a person, as a player. I really didn't think he brought a lot to the table. From talking to some of his teammates, there wasn't the best of chemistry there, and not a fan for his IGLing, all that sort of stuff. So coming into Valorant, I had a very biased opinion towards him. And the first 2 events he played, and I think it was We Play was where the turning point was for me in the Ignition series way back in beta still, where I was saying, oh, David P, he probably won't stick around. He wasn't signed to G2 at that point. And I was thinking that they would end up dropping him, that it was basically a slot in, a stand in until they found someone. And then I was an analyst for the We Play event, watched all the games, and he was really impressive. So he grew so much in like 6 months. This guy went from a player that I wouldn't recommend to one that we were literally on the desk going, please sign this guy. He's unreal. He's insane. He needs to get picked up. I grew to have so much respect for David P. Still do. Hasn't gone anywhere. But the thing that's really surprising to me, so G2 are a team that we talk about as being the best. And we've always given the caveat that it can only last so long, and not just because you have to lose eventually, but because of their lineup. At the moment, it is a lineup that has had nothing but success, and they've been fine with it. But they've got a lot of players who are known for maybe being a little bit toxic, for not handling bad situations well. Pretty much all of their players. And so it's like, yeah, it's easy to have a smile on your face when you're winning. What about when you're losing? And I don't think that it's spurred on by that. This is probably a decision that has been in the works for a while. But again, this is something I really want to know who they plan to replace David P with. Because, like, off the bat, if you're filling a similar role, I'd be like, get Lel. You know, he's sick, but he's on Heretics. He's not going to be going anywhere. They're basically the best team. A lot of players and coaches have been saying that, and then they won first strike. So they're close to claiming a solidified status as the best team in Europe. So I doubt they'll make a roster change. So then it's just left to be like, I really can't think of anybody who I'm like, that will be the player you need. So it's weird. It's really weird to me. They lost one best of 3. And they're making roster changes.
Yeah, they are. And you know what? One thing that I will give to G2 is I think that G2 in other titles have made some like insane roster moves in the past, and like have handled off-season periods very well. The other thing that's really important to G2 is atmosphere. So like, not to read too much into like, is there like conflict of personality and stuff like that, but like G2 have like a very clear image that they want to foster, very clear, like, you know, like you look at every single title, like they're cocky. They all are having like way too much fun, you know? So it could be a little bit of element to that, you know? So we will see what changes they end up doing and who they end up bringing in to fill the void. But G2 were the most exciting team for, you know, the majority of this year. And I think that next year it'll be a different flavor. And, you know, anything less than winning for G2 is going to be a failure pretty much no matter how you look at it. So that's that for G2. Fingers crossed. And we hope that, you know, they make the right moves and can put themselves in a winning position for next year. But let's move away from those roster changes, go straight into some tournaments. Fragging for Charity 2.0 is just around the corner. I believe that is in exactly 7 days. You got it right there, the 17th of December. This, of course, is a charity event. A couple streamers going to be involved. I believe the whole list has yet to be announced. But in general, it's for a good cause. They ran one a little bit earlier on in the year, and you should definitely be tuning in on the 17th if you get a shot. But another event even sooner than that is the Level Valorant Clash, the regional event here in the DACH region. We've got show matches, qualifiers coming up later tonight, but you better tune in on Friday and Saturday. Of course, on this same channel, on Friday it'll be at 6 p.m. CET with 4 quarterfinals in a best-of-1 format, and on Saturday we'll have the semifinals and finals starting at 4 p.m. It'll be a ton of fun, so make sure you show up.
I mean, it's not just the money as well that these teams are competing for. It's that Logitech G pack that they could get jam-packed, that's the word, with equipment. And that's obviously going to help them out in improving their game and winning even more tournaments further down the line. I think it's really cool, the DACH region in general. Like 32 teams, it's insane to get that kind of, that level of participation from the region at such an early stage. As you were saying earlier, the game is only a little bit over 6 months. So I'm really happy to see that. And we know DACH players going across many FPS titles are up there with the best. So it'll definitely be a high level of competition.
Yes, sir. And I know, oh, actually, I don't know if the cast have been announced. Can I leak that? I think the cast have been announced. Pretty sure. I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to go for it. Okay, cool. I just got confirmation that they are. Yeah, of course, it's going to be Ryan Central is going to be one of the casters. He is fantastic. We've had him on the show before. He's going to be great. But another guy that I'm actually really personally excited for is Docta. Now, me and Docta actually go way back. I know him from casting like League of Legends amateur scene years and years and years ago. So definitely we'll be providing you guys with some high quality coverage. That'll be great. Now, quickly, this was not part of the plan, Mitch, but I have Twitter open on my second monitor, and there was just a bombshell announcement. So I don't know if you guys know this very recently. The Alliance said that they are getting involved in Valorant. Now, I'm not super familiar with them, but I believe they're a very large Dota organization, Champions of the Aegis. I look at them, and that's their thing. James Banks, have you heard of him?
I've heard his name a couple of times. Yeah. A few times I've heard his name.
He just tweeted out, a new challenge has been in the making for some time. Together with the amazing team at Alliance, I will be building a top-tier European Valorant team. He is joining the Alliance as a general manager. So that's pretty freaking cool.
I'll be honest, I've known this for a while.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I wanted to hear you talk about it.
Yeah, he came to me, and as I said, my background, Counter-Strike, Halo, like, I've no idea about MOBAs. My brain is way too small for that. So when I saw, he came and he was like, yeah, I'm going to be the general manager for Alliance. I was like, who? What's that? Is that like a group of orgs coming together, like an alliance? What's going on? And then I looked them up. I was like, oh, damn, that's a pretty big Dota org. That's sick. Obviously, they're in a couple other games as well, like Smash, Apex, PUBG, and Trackmania, which is so much fun. But I'm really excited to see them coming into Valorant, simply for the reason that another EU org, and that's amazing. We need as many as we can get at this point, because First Strike proved it. There is so much skill. You have a team in the grand finals that are orgless, not the team orgless. They don't have an org. Summon FC, and then you've got Heretics, who are just fairly new, all in all. Like, they weren't on most people's radars. If you look at the Reddits, if you look at the Twitch chat, when they were playing the qualifiers, people were like, this guy's going to get wrecked. And then they were just come out swinging from the very start. And I think a lot of people were claiming them to be the best team in Europe, as I said, or one of the top 4, even before they were facing off, even before they had played any top 10 teams. That's how strong they are. So there is so much depth to Europe, and we need as many orgs as we can get, because North America's got them, and let's be real, they're top 10 at best. They ain't got a chance when it comes to global finals.
Yes, sir. Get them. Get them. You know what? I also think it's because I actually don't know too much about the structure of a lot of orgs and like Valorant orgs, and like who the GMs are, like how they're putting together their teams too. So it is just nice also knowing that there's a person finding players that legitimately knows what they're doing. That's always a good thing. You know, you might be able to build a good roster if you know what's going on there too. So very cool for Banks, of course. And that's going to close out our esport updates. We got some on the fly stuff. That was pretty cool. But now we can move over into First Strike. We've been talking about it a lot during the day. But I first want to ask you, because of course I work all the time in the LEC studio. You of course got to go there live.
Lex,
how much fun did you have? Like, what was it like? Hit me up.
Dude, it was insane. So, like, I've worked some good studio productions before. Like, I think We Play in Valorant has been, up till First Strike, my favorite by far. Like, the theming and everything was amazing. I had a positive COVID test during it, so I ended up missing most of the event. But it was great watching it from my apartment and dialing in. But like that studio was awesome. It was really nicely made. There was lots of AR. Dude, the LEC studio though, holy shit, it's a different ball game. They everything you could possibly want. We were coming up with segments like on the ball 10 minutes before. We're like, dude, can we do a telestrator? Can we like get 2 of us over there, get this clip from that round? They're like, yeah, no worries. We got you. As long as the software allows us to encode it all in time. Yeah. The team behind it were so talented, so easy to work with. The studio itself was amazing. Dude, honestly, it made me so sad that we didn't have a crowd. Like, that would have been amazing if we had had a crowd for that event. Jeez.
Oh yeah, I mean, the last time. When was the last time I had a crowd? It was like March. Like start of March. Maybe it was February. I can't even remember. It was so long ago. Yeah, because I love that studio. And honestly, like, I think because obviously there was the insane augmented reality that they put in. So like Raze was dancing, blowing up the spike and everything too. But that was actually tech that they implemented at I think it was at the end of our spring split, so around like April this year. And I'll be honest, I thought it looked like really, really janky. And then like this comes out and they've even got the reflection off of the ground. I don't even think the ground is that reflective, but like they got it perfectly. I'm like, oh my God, like this is kind of legit. This was really cool.
Dude. I was backstage watching this. We were like doing our final notes, talking about what we were going to do for the show. And then I see like Ray's dancing. They were rehearsing it. They were lining up the feet and everything, right? And I'm just looking at that exact thing, right? I'm looking at that and I was just vibrating in my chair. It was like, oh my God, I need to tweet this. I need to show people. Can we start the show now? Like, I was so excited, man. And then this video as well, that new Fire video, it gets me every time. It literally gives me goosebumps. I was so hyped. I don't know if they made the song themselves, but it went so well. And like, oh man, everything about that just puts a smile on my face. I want to go back, man. I want to go back.
Oh man, agent select and having them all line up on stage. I was just, I honestly, I tweeted a picture at Yinsu actually because Jet was like augmented reality. I'm a Jet main, and I'm like, why can't I stand next to Jet? I was really sad, but you know, quick little flex. Jet's voice actress follows me on Twitter now, so boom, win. That's a huge win. Fair play.
I mean, I got to stand. I got to stand physically beside Viper during a segment, which was a dream come true. Except she was standing on her tippy toes, which misconstrued to the viewers that I was below average height. Just so everybody knows, she was on her tippy toes. And I was still a perfectly acceptable height beside her. That tells you a lot. I'm at least 6'5", at least.
Okay, well, you know what? You're lucky I wasn't on the broadcast, because if we'd had to stand next to... I'm legitimately 6'7", so...
Oh no! Okay, we can't work together.
You wouldn't be the tallest guy in the room for once. Is what I'm saying. For
once,
you know.
Exactly. Yeah. That would be nice. You know, finally, I don't know what that feels like.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. You know, the broadcast was really fun to watch. I think that actually one of the other really cool things that happened was I believe it was the opening for finals when Jonas did his whole, you know, Sova Dart song, which was a blast. But I literally, end of 2019, I basically did the same thing. We're using that same guitar. We had like a mini like concert on stage, like recapping our season, and just seeing those pictures side by side, like after a year, I don't know, just like how cool it is to see like other people in my house, if that makes sense, just doing like a really sick show. Was really, really cool. But let's talk about the games themselves. There were a lot of upsets, you would say, like on paper, right? And I think, I mean, like, I think we can just go sort of chronologically, because obviously a lot of people knew the Heretics were really, really good, but right off the bat, like, that match against Liquid was so close. And I mean, I feel bad for Scream. Scream was an absolute monster, but it just wasn't good enough. Do you remember that match at all? Because, I mean, those games were like such a blur to me. They were so close.
Yeah, I remember that vividly. Scream popping like 30 kills every map, and they lost. What did he... Hold on, I got to open it here to get my numbers exact. 89 kills across the 3 maps. 89! So close to 30 per map. And he ends up losing it. That is got to be the most heartbreaking thing ever. And for Liquid, you know, this has been a constant story for them, where they get into an event, they can beat some of the weaker teams, but then they can never beat like who we would consider top 3. And typically it's been your G2s and your FPXs that they've fallen to, and they've kind of been in like their tier 2, but they've been the only tier 2 team. That tier 1 was G2 FPX, tier 2 was Liquid, tier 3 was everybody else. Now we're in this spot where Heretics have pushed past them so easily and so quickly. You've got a team like Summon FC who I would have no doubt would beat Team Liquid on any given day in a best of 3, best of 5, even if you want to go that far. So that's then a position for me where I look at it. It was actually a point, if I segue real quick to what we said on the desk. Sure. We brought it up kind of poorly. I think it shone a bad light on Solkus that we didn't mean for it to. We were making the point in the pre-show on how Liquid had consistently been underperforming. Every event, they were coming top 3. Now they're up against Heretics. They lost that. Again, they lost to the winner, but still going out first round, it's not what Team Liquid should be doing as a brand, right? That's not what they want their logo and their name to be associated with. And we made the point in the pre-show that there was a certain point where you have to change something, and it was either going to be, so they've tried to change how the roster works. They've changed agents around like crazy. They've changed compositions to the point they played with no smokes going into a 50K event to trial it. Like, they're not afraid to try new things, but none of those new things were working. So we were saying eventually, right, you're going to have to go and you're going to have to make roster changes, right? At a certain point, someone's going to pull the trigger on that. And then we went on. We had just made the point post-game that Solkas played poorly. We brought that point up. People thought we were saying Solkas should be dropped, and that's absolutely not the case, especially with the role that he plays in the team. But the point is, for Liquid, how long is that organization going to tolerate results? Because we've already seen it from NIP. You know, they turned around and they dropped 2 of their players when the whole team didn't want those players to be dropped. And the org was like, nah, dude, get rid of them. Terrible decision, but still, they went along with it because that's what NIP do. And for Liquid, they've been patient, but if it doesn't pay off, eventually you're going to have to, push is going to come to shove, right?
Yeah, and it's sort of it's a disappointing like way to finish off the year too, because maybe this like story is a little bit outdated, right? But like Fish 123, like in beta, like that was the most exciting team in Europe. It felt like that team was so cool, you know, and you know they were never really able to realize the vision of being, you know, one of the most dominant teams in Europe and sort of reach that peak. So we'll see what 2021 holds for Team Liquid, but Heretics moved right on from that match, and we were just teasing you a little bit with the clips right there, but they went up against G2 and toppled them already. So really, Heretics' journey to winning First Strike was effectively like the hardest you could ask for, and proved to everyone like they are the best team in this tournament. Like, there were no easy matches for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They had by far the toughest route. Like, Summon FC got that first round versus Purple Cobras, FBX versus Nulpanky. They had easy enough routes through. Heretics, they face one of the best teams in Europe. They face the best team in Europe. Then they face the team that's just beaten the second best team in Europe. Like,
every match looked like it was the final, to be honest.
Yeah, literally. And they, like, not only did they win it, they won it with an ace on Nukia as well, which was unreal. Like, they had so much momentum swinging through. I really enjoyed it. I was kind of sad that it ended up in 3-1 because I thought Summon FC would do a little bit more, and no doubt they will in the future. They're inexperienced players. I think 3 of them have never played at a LAN event, so you can imagine the nerves. I had nerves. I was shaking on the desk for them, for both teams, so I can only imagine what it felt like to play in that. But really, I mean, my boy Mystic, look, he's coming up. I love Mystic, man. Coming out with the Viper, my favorite Viper by far. But yeah, like, Heretics were unreal. They had such a good run, and there is serious ground to claim them to be the best team in Europe, and I think it's a shame we're going to have to wait a while to really put that to the test.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was just watching these games, and LOL looked like an absolute criminal. Like, it was just unreal, the things that he was able to get away with, and the plays that this man made, just like really insane stuff coming out from him. So overall, very impressive tournament for the Heretics, and I think that overall, there's like a lot we could get into. I don't think this is necessarily a time to like dive deep into any of the play styles and the teams. Like, there's a long road ahead of them in 2021 where that's going to be a little bit more exciting. But in terms of like this event as a way to be like, this is Riot's first event in Valorant, like right off the bat, like, it looks like they've been running Valorant events for forever, you know, like with what it ended up looking like. So I think this spells like very, very good things for Valorant moving forward. And if you actually look at some of like the viewership statistics, like, this was incredibly popular for a game that's been out for half a year at this point. I think up to 300,000 peak in North America. You can see they're just past 300,000. And for context, I'm trying to remember some of the finals that we've had in Europe for the LEC. Like, the League of Legends European finals, I think, hit around like 800 or 900,000 viewers like this past year as their peak for a final, which is like that's incredible. Like, it's just gotten better year on year on year. But this will happen in Valorant too, where next year, like, it could be 400K, then 500K. Like, it will only continue to grow, I feel, as Riot puts more and more attention into the scene.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. I mean, Europe obviously had some great peaks as well, not quite over towards North America. And I think we lost a lot in terms of brand value in that finals. You had a team that's unsigned, that is sub sub 1K followers on Twitter. You've Heretics as well, like a mid-tier organization in pretty much every game that they're a part of. So those figures that we put up, which I think was like 100K for Europe, could have been and would have been much higher had it have been your standard G2 FPX, but I'm very glad it wasn't. And we still managed to hit some pretty big figures. Obviously, North America, as I said before as well, they have got the big names. They've got a lot of organizations investing into it. And I mean, just not getting their money's worth, are they? Come to Europe. Come on, come to the skills region. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, NA got so like, because you talk about like Europe not having big names like in the finals. Like, I think that's short-term pain for long-term gain, because it opens up like all these players, those orgs, like start carving their name out in Valorant. So in 2021, like everyone's gonna know who Heretics are, and that's gonna be a team you're gonna be watching out for. But NA, how lucky do you get to have TSM versus 100 Thieves in the finals, and then Hiko comes up and finally gets that trophy? That was just a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch, and Hiko also just had a great performance on the day there too.
Yeah, there were some unbelievable moments in that. I mean, Hiko had me excited. One of my favorite things that just made me laugh so much was, I want to make it clear, I got nothing but respect for Hayes. I think he's an amazing player, but it's so funny. I was on my phone. We had this screen up. We just finished the EU finals. We were back at my room chilling out, had it up on the big screen, and I was just on my phone, and I saw a tweet from a tweet tagging Hayes, which was he'd done an interview, and he said, I was just reading the first line. It's like, it's so much easier to aim in this game than in Counter-Strike. And then I looked up, and he took a fight long range with a where he had a Vandal versus a Classic, and he lost that. And I was like, yeah, looks a lot easier.
Oh, yeah.
It was an amazing moment. But, I mean, even if you look at the organization, so, like, we're talking about the finals, 100 Thieves, TSM, that's great. But, honestly, any of these teams would have dragged massive viewership. The EU, we had, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that are unsigned by organizations in the finals, which, keep in mind, technically is the biggest finals. I think it's by like a couple $100, but technically it's the biggest finals. When you look at the North American one, Envy, 100 Thieves, Renegades, Sentinels, TSM, FaZe, Immortals, T1. It's not a single not a single small team even there, like smaller org. I think all of those, off the top of my head, would be larger than Heretics in general, certainly for English-speaking audiences. So it's phenomenal that they've gotten so much investment, and I just can't wait to see them smashed into the ground by an unsigned EU team.
I want to get those international lands next year. Summon FC going to show up, absolutely put 100 Thieves in the dirt. Show those boomers what's up. But let's move on from First Strike. You know, Mitch, it's been great. We're running a little bit slow, so it's time for the Valorant wish list. Boom, boom, boom. Let's start it off with some Reddit reactions. We're going to go through these bullet fire. Production's going to toss up some posts that we have never seen before from the depths of the Valorant subreddit, and we are going to give you our honest, unfiltered opinion. So put number 1 up there. Let's see it. Okay, absolutely unplayable. The aggressive type melees do not leave traces in the correct direction when in left-handed mode. Okay.
Oh.
That is so
okay.
It's not unplayable, but it is unplayable, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's your fault for playing in left-handed mode. Next.
I couldn't agree more. Let's get the next one up there.
I mean, we gotta fly through these, right? Timer for spike detonation. I wonder if it's a good idea to add another timer to detonation once the spike is planted, so it's easier to calculate your moves. Because all this time we just have a rough figure on how many seconds we get to wait for it to explode.
All right, shut up, League of Legends player. Next.
Yeah, thank you. You said it. That means I don't get in as much trouble. On to the next one.
Jeez. What a Brimstone stim pack can speed up spike planting and defusing. Okay, that's kind of hilarious. That's kind of hilarious. I'm for
just
it.
Hear the defuse sound. It's like spike defused. What? What? It started a second ago. Was it halfway? Did he do it halfway? What's going on? That'd be.
What do they think the stim pack does? Does it makes your like fingers move faster or something? What?
Like it's a little electronic device. All of a sudden, that just hacks in faster. I don't know what's going on. I know somebody was asking. I can't remember who it is. I think for their own safety, I can't remember. But it was they wanted the defenders to be able to pick up the spike. It was like and plant it. It's like, what are you doing? I think it was a pro player. It's like you're a moron. Move on to the next one. Like what? You can pick it up, plant it, and defuse it yourself. Like that's insane.
I think this one might be good. I am built for Iron 1 with over 500 upvotes. Many people just want to advance the rankings, have a cool title show to their friends, but many just don't understand that Iron 1 is a great rank. I was born for Iron 1. I am nowhere near good enough to get Iron 2, and that's fine by me. Iron 1 is where it's at. Most of the people I talk to in Iron 1 are chill dudes who just want to have fun with the game. If I practice really hard, could I get to Iron 2? No. I may be bad at the game, but I'm smart enough to know that Iron 1 is the best rank of them all. Join me, my fellow Iron 1s, in proving our dominance to those in the sweat ranks. 95% upvotes. Well done.
Fair play. I mean, I really respect Banks for making a Reddit thread like that. That's ballsy.
Oh no, don't tell Alliance about this one. They realize they made a huge mistake. Let's toss the next one up there. Oh, just kidding. That was the last one, I am told. All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. Now let's get into our wish list. I mentioned this earlier. Thanks. God, I can't believe you did them like that. My wish list. All right. I want lore. I need information on the world at large, and I want like short stories. I want comic. I want videos. I want it all. I need to know what's going on because right now, it's just not enough for me, you know? All we got was that one video, and granted, it was sweet. It was Phoenix chasing down Jet, but I need to know what's going on.
Fair play. So you want, like, Jet to come on and start her own, like, K-pop band? You know, we'll come out in full force. Social medias will be blaring.
That's not the lore I'm looking for. That's not the lore I'm looking for. No, sir. Oh, my God. You know what?
I think she could make some bangers.
Look, that is also something I would ask for. Don't get me wrong, but that's not for this Christmas, you know. That's for next Christmas, maybe. Next First Strike is when the Valorant K-pop band is gonna come out. We actually pulled up that video from a while ago to show you guys, so I'll jog your memories on just what Riot could do for us. They chose to only do once. This is the Ignition trailer. I don't know. I forget what it's called. Let's watch it. Let's watch the thing.
Phoenix, please tell me you have the package.
I would if somebody was a little less aggressive. Hey, stop! I said stop! Oh, that's how you want to play it.
Really, I just want more Jet cinematics, but you know, honestly, like one thing that Riot has done for League of Legends is they have this like universe webpage where you can go, you can see like the world map, you can go to each region, learn like it has like facts, short stories, like all these things. Like they have so much done over there, and I want that to happen in Valorant because I'm a lore buff for like Elder Scrolls, League of Legends. Like I love this kind of stuff. I love figuring out how they build worlds. I know they have insane like narrative directors and writers over there. So Riot, please get it done. Give us some cool events with some lore drops, and I'll be a very happy camper. But that's it for me, Mitch. What's your wish for this Christmas?
I mean, my one's a little bit more intuitive to the FPS genre, right? We're not talking about little storybooks, okay? What I'm talking about is 1v1 maps. I want to see the ability for players to not spend their time learning where Jet's from and what kind of K-pop music she's going to be bringing out. Are there even different kinds? I don't know. What we're here for is to practice our aim and practice one-on-one fights. So I want some 1v1 maps to be introduced into the game. We see them in different genres Here's Counter-Strike, where for some reason this guy's view model is switching when he goes left or right. That's an interesting little macro. But basically, if you guys aren't familiar with it, you load into a server, and then you face off in multiple different rounds up against different opponents. You start on opposite sides of a symmetrical map, and you fight to the death with the same weapons for the most part. It's fun. You have pistol ones, you have operator ones, you have rifles, like specific ones, a Vandal versus Vandal, Phantom versus Phantom, all that sort of stuff. It can really just help you in practicing taking actual gunfights without any of the abilities or anything like that to mess around with.
I'm into it. I've been saying this for a long time. I want more modes, and specifically like modes like this, where it's 1v1, 2v2, like this sort of stuff is going to be really cool. So Riot, get on that. Make it happen. Now, we do have some sweet show matches coming up very shortly. Our first one is going to be Nerdtown versus Erase. And again, these are the qualifiers for the level regional clash this weekend. So we're going to step away for just a few minutes. When we come back, we're going to bring you this sweet matchup. Me and Mitch are going to be casting the game. So don't go too far away, because we're going to be back very shortly.